Okay, now in this video we are going to talk about the currency devaluation and some GDP thing, and we are going to finish this thing because I am getting tired. Now, the currency devaluation often increases the domestic prices because the reduced currency valuation. Yes, exactly. See it. You see it. See the game. But most say they are saying that this, however, this increase is not guaranteed for. Okay, rule in the book: currency devaluation. Okay, if your dollar devaluates, what is the meaning of the dollar devaluation? If they mistake that they print extra cash and in the central bank, and at the same point of time, that extra cash is not going to match the goods and services. That extra cash is not going to match the goods and services. Okay, that extra cash is not going to match the goods and services inside the nation. And okay, if you have money, what you are going to do? You are not going to keep quiet. You are going to buy something, and when you buy something, okay, that good is there with you. So which means, okay, using the money, you are going to buy the goods and services. If a lot of people everyone is having the money, huge amount of money everyone is having, then the goods and services production, it is not going to be there that much. Only the money can be printed. The goods and services cannot be printed. Okay, the goods and services cannot be printed. It takes labor cost. It takes the raw materials. It takes the resources. It takes electricity, everything. So which means, okay, okay, the supply is very low. The supply of the goods and services is low with respect to the population, with respect to high population, where everyone needs that much. So that's the reason you need to understand. Okay, that's the reason you need to understand the problems of this thing. Okay, so why we are not here? Like, okay, see, okay, you can see the okay, whatever I am saying, giving it, okay, right now, okay, see the. See, GDP and per capita income does not matter if the wealth distribution of the nation is unequal. Okay, now, okay, we are going to see, okay, whatever I have said it in the first video, that GDP does not matter for the top 10%. Okay, that GDP is a metric garbage, man. It's a waste garbage. Okay, it's a waste garbage. Okay, now try the Indian people's argument, so that they are the world's topest economy, everything. It does not mean, okay, your life, okay, it has nothing to do with your life. If India becomes first economy, last economy, third economy, or zeroth economy, it doesn't matter. Why? See, GDP does not matter as it tells the economy top 10% holds the majority of wealth converted into assets. Bottom 90% working in these assets, and bottom 90% again passing the salary to the top 10% through the top 10% diversified. Yeah. Is supported by the significant data on the wealth and income inequality. Recent reports political top 10% allied holds a massive portion of the nation's wealth, was investment. Top 10% of the in India, the richest 10% holds around 65% of the total wealth. See what happened in India. Okay, see what happened. Yeah, here what happened. Here what happened. See here. Huh? See the game. See the game. Between 2014 and 2024, okay, in between 2014 and 2024, BJP was there. The income gap between the top 10% and the bottom 50% remained high, which means the rich got richer and the poor got poorer. The top 10% of the world's population owns about 75%. Okay, forget about the word. India, yeah. National income is 58%, bottom 50 receive only 15%. The top 1% holds 40% of the nation's wealth. Okay, the top 1%. Top 10% holds 65% of the nation's wealth, and the bottom 50% holds only 6.4. Why GDP falls as the measure of a well-being? Ignores distribution. Yes, see. See. Widely criticized for failing to reflect the actual distribution of wealth and well-being within the society. It doesn't tell the well-being within the society. Remember, it doesn't tell about the well-being. It is saying clearly well-being about well-being. तुम लोग अपनी ज़िंदगी में कैसे खुशहाली तरीके से जीते हो, वो इम्पोर्टेंट है. अगर वो चीज़ ही नहीं दिया इन लोगों ने, तो क्या तुम लोग इनकी माँ के यहाँ कौन सा GDP, कहाँ का GDP, कैसा GDP ग्रो हो रहा है, वो टॉपेस्ट इकोनॉमी बन रहे हैं, उसको लेके क्या करे, फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. बिकॉज द टॉप 10% होल्ड्स द वेल्थ. यू नीड द वेल्थ. ओके, विच मीन्स, ठीक है. ओके, आई विल गिव यू एन एग्जाम्पल. Okay, the bottom 90% of the entire India, they are just like they are the tires, and who is sitting on them? is the top 10% as well as the ministers. And they are riding the bike. They are riding the bike. And you know what? The bike is carrying the bike is taking a lot of damages. The bike is taking the thorns. The bike is taking, sorry, the tires, the two tires, the front tire and the back tire is taking the front rubber tire, and the back rubber tire is taking the stones, it is taking the thorns, it is taking the mud water, okay, wastewater, every single thing it is taking it. And okay, sometimes it is get punctured, sometimes it gets completely broken, okay, yeah, it gets heat, it gets wind, everything, but it has to reach the destination from the starting point to the ending point. Okay, and who is sitting on that? Who is sitting on the seat and okay, riding it? The top 10%. The top 10% who rides on the Indian economy, huh? Who rides the Indian economy, and the bottom 90% they are just exactly. And you know what? From that position, okay, from the starting point into the ending point, you are going to reach. And you know what? The persons who are sitting on the the top 10% of the Indian section, the top 10% of the Indian society, which consists which consisting of the higher varna systems, especially the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Shudras, and the Vaishyas, Baniyas. Okay, they are going to sit on the top of the pyramid, and they are going to just say, yes, India is winning. Yes, India is winning. Yes, no. Okay, only top 10% of the Indian population is winning. What about the bottom 90%? The bottom 90% are just working hard inside your assets. And your assets are winning. Your assets winning, you are getting profit, you are getting richer and richer by doing nothing. By doing nothing, you are going to get richer. But what about the bottom 90% then? And then how the hell the GDP is going to be measured in that? Yeah, huh? And you tell me that GDP is the most majority. Yeah, and you say, okay, your ministers, Piyush Goyal and everyone says, yeah, GDP is increased by 7.2 or 6.4 or 6.5. Get lost. I don't care about your goddamn GDP. Okay. No. We don't want your GDP metrics. We don't want your GDP metrics because it doesn't tell the true picture. It doesn't tell the true picture. Huh? Don't, okay. And you know what? The World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, or any okay, IMF economic report, okay, bullshit. Because remember, a man, okay, if they say, okay, poor, गरीबी हटी, कैसा गरीबी हटी? मतलब उद्योग मिला. गरीबी हटी क्योंकि उद्योग मिला. उद्योग मिलता है तो गरीबी हटता है. हाँ, ठीक है. हाँ, कितना पैसा दिया? हाँ, कितने लोगों का सैलरी जो है नहीं, 15,000 है, 20,000 है, उसका थोड़ा डेटा मेरे को चाहिए. हाँ, है नहीं? कितने लोग हैं? क्या बात करते हो भाई? क्या बात करते हो तुम लोग? हर एक चीज़ के लिए उनको लोन करना पड़ता है और लोन में ज़िंदगी जीनी पड़ती है, और तुम लोग वहाँ पे अय्याशी मनाते हो और उसके बाद में ये बोलते हो कि ठीक है देश बढ़ रहा है. कहाँ बढ़ रहा है? कैसा बढ़ रहा है? कितना बढ़ रहा है? जब सब लोग बढ़ते नहीं तब देश बढ़ता है. हाँ, जब सब लोग नहीं बढ़ते तो क्या घंटा देश बढ़ता है? हाँ? Top 10% are the most important. Top 10% they hold 65 to 68% of the nation's wealth. और वो लोग जानते हैं, उनके अमीर माँ बाप ने उनको ये सिखाया है कि यार पैसे जो है बैंक में नहीं रखते, पैसा जो है बैंक में रखेगा तो उसका इज्जत टूटा जाएगा पैसे का, तो क्या हो जाएगा? ठीक है, उसका पावर कम हो जाएगा. हाँ, तो क्या करना? व्हाट इज यार? Yeah, it doesn't tell the true picture. Okay, when it doesn't tell the true picture only, why you're okay so much concentrated on that particular thing? Huh? You're not okay. You should not concentrate on that particular thing. Okay, I will tell you. Okay, I will tell you what happens. Okay, I will tell you what happens. Huh? Okay, the first step, the second step, and the third step. Okay, what is the GDP? That GDP is the total value of the goods and services. Okay, remember, the total value of the goods and services which is produced within the country. Okay, this is a third step. This is a third step in a mathematical equation, the progress of the nation. Okay, solve the equation of progress of the nation. Okay, now you are directly jumping into the third step, but you are not telling the first step and the second step. Okay, and you are okay, what is nation? You are concluding what is nation? Everyone, the rich people, middle class people, and poor people. And you have to tell the progress of the rich people, poor people, and the middle class people, they are progressing. With respect to the inflation standard. Okay. But you are giving this useless thing called as a GDP to us, that there it is increasing by this one. With respect to inflation, what is going to happen? The goods and the services prices are going to increase. Definitely GDP is going to increase. Huh? है कि नहीं? And when this GDP is going to increase, the goods and services, the persons who are running these businesses, they are going to increase the prices of the goods and services, whether in hotels, restaurants, bars, wines, everything, where including the cost of tariffs, and they are going to pass these customers. And who are these owners? The goods and services trade of the trade and the transaction of the trade between the goods and services, between the supplier and the customer. Where it is going to be there? It is going to be there inside the building. It is going to be there inside the building, called as an asset or a real estate. Inside the real estate, it is going to be there. What is real estate? Bars, restaurants, hotels, restaurants. Dress shops, real estate. Schools, real estate. Colleges, real estate. Wine, production plants, it's a real estate. Textiles, garments, real estate. Everything that is a building in which the real estate is there. Real estate. So these real estate prices are going to exactly. This is the second step. Then the first step, who is the owner of this building? Who is the owner? The top 10%, the higher Varna system, the higher class systems, the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Shudras, and the Vaishyas. The merchants. These are the four big class. These are the four entities of the big class. If these are the four entities of the big class, then definitely they are in the top 10%. They are definitely in the top 10%, and some of them they are in the bottom 90%. Some of them they are in the top 10%. Only some of them, and and most of them they are in the bottom 90%. And I'm talking about the top 10%. Most of them they are Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and the Shudras. Then the SCs and the STs, OBCs, the Muslims, the Jains, the Buddhists, most of the time say Lingayats, these people, they come under the bottom 90%. Most of them they come under bottom 90%, and these people are working for the top 10% assets. And inside the assets, remember this thing: the first step, the second step, the third step is very, very important. And describe the progress of the nation. And you have progress of nation. Describe the progress of nation. This is the question mark. And and the central government of India, it gives the answers with respect to the GDP. The GDP comes at the third step. That's the third step of the mathematical equation. The third step of the mathematical equation. Then what about the first step and the second step? Yes, this total value of the goods and services produced within a country. Within a specified period of a time, that is 1 year. The GDP is calculated with respect to 1 year. But this is a third step. Then for the first step and the second step, the first step is the top 10%. The top 10% is the owners of this particular buildings. Inside the buildings, the transaction of this. Yes, exactly. And whenever there is an inflation, what will happen? Whenever there is an inflation, what will happen, sir? Please tell me. The prices are going to increase. The raw materials, the resources, everything, the labor. Yes, exactly. Going to increase. And when it is going to increase, who is going to take all the load and is going to pay it? The customer, the end customer. Inside the end, he is going to be a customer. And whether it is inflation or whether it is there is no inflation, this top 10% owners, okay, of the society, of Indian society, which is consisting of the higher varna systems, okay, of religious ethnic codes of, okay, of India, they are owning all the businesses, because 65% of the wealth they have converted into assets, because most of them they are businessmen, because they know how to do the business. You know that thing, right? Yeah. If they know that, okay, if they know that they have to convert it to the assets, and the assets are going to produce the revenue every single day, okay, every single month, okay, huh. And if they know it, and we don't know it, because most of us they don't have the knowledge about the economics. So the top 10% owners belonging to the higher Varna systems, they have the buildings of the real estate or the assets, okay, which is going to produce the revenue. And this is the, okay, now this is the thing. The first, the top 10, the top 10% is the first step is that owners. Who are the owners? Okay, the top 10%. What is the ownership they have? The buildings of the assets, okay, which is going to do the transaction of the goods and services. Now here comes the GDP. The third step is the GDP. Here comes the GDP. The GDP is the meaning of what? The total value of the goods and services produced within the country. Yes, yes, okay, but you are telling directly me the third step. Yeah, you are telling me the third step, but here I am the evaluator. Where are the first step and the second step? You have directly given me the third step right now. Okay, here I am evaluating the progress of the nation. Inside the nation, everyone comes. Yes, you have given the citizenship to everyone. Yeah, means there are 140 crore Indians, which means you have to tell the progress of every single one. You can't escape with the GDP. But the GDP is telling me the progress of only top 10%, because this top 10% owns these, okay, assets. This top 10% are the owners, and the top 10% of the owners means the owners of the assets in which the goods and services transactions are going to be doing. And when this top, which means the top 10% of these ownership, okay, the ministers, the politicians, okay, the rich people who have inherited everything, okay, they have built the assets, the schools, colleges, universities, okay, medical institutions, okay, who are these owners? The ministers especially, okay, and the Ambanis, the Adanis, okay, yes, exactly. The schools, colleges, universities, okay, the factories, the textiles, the garments, okay, factories, production plants, every single thing, it's owned by whom? The top 10%. That 14.6 crore Indians. The 14.6 crore Indians, the 14.6 crore rich Indians. Then what about the 131.4? What about 131.4 exactly? Okay, if 146 crore population, if there is 146 crore population, if with I'm talking to, if there is exactly 1.146 crore people population is there. So okay, then what about 131.4 crore people? Why you are not telling about that picture? And why you are saying like GDP, and why you are saying that this is the, okay, economy is growing and we are going to become the third largest economy or second largest economy? I don't care about that thing. Because the top 10% owns this thing. And the buildings, okay, the buildings or the real estate assets, okay, they own it. And they are going to get profit. And you know what? What is profit? After passing the fruits of the labor, means after passing out the salaries and the cost of production and the maintenance cost, everything. Okay, and they are going to make it out. Yeah, and they have these businesses. Okay, so, and when they have these businesses, the top 10% owns the businesses and the bottom 90% are working inside these businesses. And then how the hell you are going to give me an metric that is going to show me only the top 10 percentage profits, that is calculated as a GDP? Then what? Neglecting the bottom 90%, 131.4 crore people of India, the Indians, they are going to work inside this assets, which is owned by the top 10%. Where is your goddamn thing? Where is your goddamn thing? So, okay, don't fool anyone. Okay, don't try to fool anyone, because we know the game. Because in mathematics, remember the first step, okay, when you solve the question, you have to first Write the first step and second step. Without writing the first step and the second step, if you go and directly tell me the third step, I'm going to cut the marks, because you know the first and second step. Because you don't know the first step and the second step, then how you can write the third step? Definitely you have copied from somewhere else. I'm going to wrong it. Because you have to give me the first step and the second step. Without giving the first step and second step, the first step, second step you have written it, third step, fourth step you don't know, the fifth step you have written it, means you had, this student has done some mistake here, so yes, I can give the marks. But without giving me the first step and the second step, you have directly written the third step, which means you have definitely copied from somewhere else, because you don't know the first step and the second step. Because without knowing how to drive, how I can assume that you are driving? Without jumping inside the water, how I can assume that you are you are swimming? Tell me all these things. Don't tell me all this useless nonsense garbage things, that GDP is increasing, your nation is increasing. Be proud, India, be Indians proud. Remember, the bottom 90% are the tires here. The bottom 90% are the tires here, and they are going to suffer, because they are working here. And don't talk about the increasing the prices of the increasing the salary. Yes, what is the increasing salary? Yes, the salary is increased. Yes, the salary is increased. I'm agreeing with that. Yes, is the salary of every single employee has been increased with respect to inflation, especially the private sector, who are working in the schools, colleges, and the universities, and the schools, especially the schools, the private schools, and the government, and then the government schools. Does this increase in the DA or the HRA or any basic whatever these sugar coatings are there, does these things account for the inflation? With respect to the inflation, with respect to the inflation, the snake, with respect to the snake, with respect to the inflation called a snake, does this thing counts? Does the salary has, see, the inflation has been the prices are here, and the salaries are here, and the prices are here, and now the prices have gone higher here, and the salaries have been just increased here, but here there's a gap from here to here. Then what is the ladder? And then you need the ladder, and then the banks will give you the ladder. What is the ladder? Loan करना पड़ेगा हर एक चीज के लिए, and that's what we call it as the enslaving yourself by the death grip called as a loan. So you are by reducing, by not giving the salaries adjusted with respect to inflation, and at the same point of time the banks are not giving, the banks will never ever give you the interest with respect to inflation. When you deposit the money inside the banks are not going to give the banks are never ever going to give you the interest on that money which you have deposited inside the banks with respect to inflation. And the second thing, the salaries of the employees are not adjusted with respect to inflation. Then how the hell you are going to say GDP is the GDP is increasing, because these two things are there, and these two things are there, and on the top of that the top 10% is going increasing the goods and the services. मतलब मसाला डोसा 5 रुपए बढ़ाया गया, पूरी को 10 रुपए बढ़ाया गया, और कितने लोग पूरी खाएंगे, कितने प्लेट पूरी खाएंगे, कितने प्लेट मसाला डोसा बेचा जाएगा? हाँ, ठीक है, 10 रुपए मसाला डोसा बढ़ा दिया, 15 रुपए पूरी बढ़ा दिया, तेल का दाम बढ़ा दिया, और बिकॉज ऑल द कॉस्ट विल बी यूटिलाइज्ड. हाँ, ठीक है, पूरी बनता है, ठीक है, वही ठीक है, उसी ठीक है, एक किलो क्या हुआ, ठीक है, 1 केजी ठीक है जमीनी ऑयल, 1 केजी जमीनी ऑयल में तुम लोगों ने क्या किया, ठीक है, पूरी को बनाया, पूरी बनाया, और जब पूरी का दाम इंक्रीज किया कितना, 15 रुपये, 10 या 15 रुपये इंक्रीज किया, ठीक है। हाँ, इंक्रीज करने के बाद होटल मैनेजर से जाके पूछा कि यार क्यों बढ़ा है सर, तेल का दाम बढ़ चुका है इसीलिए, ठीक है बढ़ चुका है भाई, ठीक है बस, हाँ ठीक है कोई बात नहीं, मतलब ठीक है मतलब तुम लोगों ने बहुत सारे पुरियों को, कितने सारे प्लेट को बेचा तुम लोगों ने, हाँ वो भी तो बताओ, वो भी तो बताओ, कितना बड़ा था, कितना बड़ा था, ठीक है प्राइस, ठीक है दाम कितना बड़ा था, दाम कितना बड़ा था, ठीक है ऑयल का, जमीनी ऑयल का, या फिर कोई पाम ऑयल का, पाम ऑयल का, टेल मी द एग्जैक्ट प्राइस इंक्रीज, मे बी सम 20 or okay, maybe some 15 or 10 rupees or 15 or 25 or 30 rupees. Yes, exactly. For 30 to 40 rupees increase in oil and some other items, you are directly increase the price of the puri plates of 10 to 15 rupees, and everyone has to pay the exact increase in the price of 10 to 15. Okay, that, and at the same point of time, okay, you are paying the, okay, एंड द लेबर कॉस्ट इज इंक्रीज बाय, ओके उनका सैलरी जो है 500 बढ़ा देगा, ठीक है 500 बढ़ाएगा। इसका ये मतलब है कि प्रॉफिट के लिए तुम लोगों ने 15 या 20 रुपए कस्टमर के ऊपर ठोक दिए, होटल वालों ने ठोक दिए। जब होटल वालों ने ही ठोक दिया, खत्म बात वहीं पे, बिकॉज ठीक है 1 किलो ऑयल, 2 किलो ऑयल, ठीक है हाँ 2 किलो ऑयल लगता है, ठीक है पूरा का पूरा पूरी बनाने में, ठीक है पूरी बनाने में, ठीक है अगर पूरी बनाना में, ठीक है हाँ ठीक है उतना लगा है 2 या 3 किलो का, ठीक है मतलब 60 रुपये का खर्चा हुआ, मतलब 60 या मतलब 90-100 रुपये का खर्चा हुआ। लेकिन उस 100 रुपये में ये कितने सारे पूरी बने, कितने सारे पूरियाँ बने, बहुत सारे पूरियाँ बने, बहुत सारे प्लेट पूरियाँ बने, तो किसको बोल रहा है, ठीक है हाँ किसको बोल रहा है, दैट इज व्हाट वी कॉल एज बिजनेस। दैट रिमेंबर, दे एट द एंड ऑफ द डे दे नीड टू गो फॉर प्रॉफिट, एंड देन एट द एंड ऑफ द डे दे नीड टू गो फॉर प्रॉफिट, एंड दे विल गो फॉर प्रॉफिट, एंड दे विल गो फॉर द प्रॉफिट एज एग्जैक्टली, एंड who will take the load, the customer, and who is the customer here, the bottom 90%. But remember, he is not belonging to the top 10%, but if he belongs to top 10%, he would have definitely opened his own hotel. Okay, if he belongs to the top 10%, he definitely would have opened his own hotel only, the big hotel or a medium sized hotel, right? Means he's definitely economically somewhat sufficient, self-efficient. Which means this game, and you know who is paying the price? The customer. Who is paying the price? The customer. Who is paying the price? The customer again, and the customer belongs to the bottom 90%. The customer belongs to the bottom 90%, and the owner belongs to the top 10%. Okay, and the goods and services belongs to the goods and the services, the total value of the goods and services, okay, production, okay, the total value of the goods and the services produced inside the country, which means it's a sale, it's a trade of the goods and services which is being produced inside the country India. Okay, which means the goods and services, okay, who is going to be profiting here? The owner. And who is the owner here? The top 10%. Okay, and exactly, okay, with respect to the inflation, okay, who is going to burn their pockets? Who is going to burn their pockets? Who is going to burn their pockets? The customers. And the customers is bottom 90%. And the bottom 90% is going to the bottom 90% have to burn their pockets in order to make the profit for the top 10%. Which means the 131.4 crore Indians, they have to burn their pockets in order to make the profit for the top 10%, because you are concerned with the GDP. The GDP is the total value of the goods and services which is produced inside India. The goods and services, which means what? The goods and services. Who holds this goods and services? Where the transactions are happening? The transactions are happening inside the building, and the transactions are, okay, who is the asset owner? It's exactly the top 10%. Which means you're not talking me about the wealth inequality. So you have to talk me about the wealth inequality first. You have to talk about the wealth inequality first, and then you have to tell me who is the owner of this asset where the goods and services are produced, and you have to tell me the progress of this. Okay, yes, exactly. You are telling me the progress of the goods and services. Okay, which is that is GDP. Means the GDP बढ़ रहा है. Okay, the goods and you are telling me the progress of the goods and services produced inside the country, and the goods and services. Okay, owners are whom? Exactly. Who is going to make the profit from these goods and services selling? Yes, exactly. The top 10%, and the top 10% are just getting profiting, and they are passing every single cost of inflation. They are passing every single cost of inflation and that profit making after passing the salary thing. Okay, after giving out the salaries with and with respect to inflation. Okay, yes, every single load is being taken by the bottom 90%. Okay, because they are burning their pockets in order to make the profit for top 10%. And the top 10% owns these assets. When the top 10% owns these assets, the top 10% owns these assets of the goods and services, and you are telling me the goods and services are very very important to the government because the government looks upon this goods and services trade. Yes, exactly. And then the goods and services trade is the most important thing for the government, which means who holds this ownership of the goods and services? Again, the top 10%. Which means you are directly telling me that the welfare of the goods and services, the welfare of the goods and services transactions, it has to increase. Okay, it has to increase, and the profits have to increase, and that profits is in the which pocket? And the profits are in which pocket? Profits are in which pocket? The top 10%. The profits are in the top 10% pockets, and the profits are in top 10% pockets, and who is burning their pockets in order to make these profits with respect to inflation when the inflation is going to be higher? Yes, the common man. And you can't say that. Okay, you can't give me the counter argument. Okay, you can give me a counter argument. Yes, their salaries are increased. Yes, I'm going to ask, their salaries, have they been adjusted to the inflation? ठीक है, उनकी जो सैलरी है वो महंगाई के साथ, महंगाई जितना हुआ है उतना ही सैलरी को बढ़ाया गया है क्या घंटा बढ़ाया गया? नहीं. क्या ठीक है, does their money which has been deposited inside the bank is going to give the interest with respect to the inflation rates? No. जो पैसा वो लोग वहाँ पे बैंक में रखते हैं, क्या घंटा वो बैंक जो है नहीं तुमको वो इंटरेस्ट देगा इन्फ्लेशन के हिसाब से? हाँ, नहीं ना. फिर काय को बोलते हो? ठीक है, एंड एट द सेम पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम द बॉटम 90%, एंड एट द सेम पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम करेंसी devaluation happens. When the currency devaluation happens, what is the meaning? The assets prices are going to increase. मतलब the top 10 percentage who holds the ownership of the schools, colleges, schools, colleges, medical institutions, the schools, colleges, medical institutions, and at the same point of time universities, and at the same point of time every single thing. Okay, the wine stores, the bars, the jewelry stores, the petrol bunks, and at the same point of time the production plants, the crude oil business, every single thing it is owned by the top 10%. And at the same point of time you are telling me, and the bottom 90%, the 131.4 crore Indians, they are burning their pockets in order to, they have to burn their pockets in order to match the inflation. Because the goods and services are matched with the inflation. The trade of the goods and services are matched with the inflation, but the bottom 90% salaries are not adjusted with respect to inflation, and the bottom 90% salaries are not adjusted with respect to inflation, and the bottom 90% where they're storing their values, where they're depositing their money inside the banks are not going to give the interest rates, with respect to the inflation, which means this bottom 90%, 134.4 crore Indians, they are burning their pockets to make the profit for the top 10% businesses, and that business output, you are telling me that India is and that business, okay, that business is growing. As the business is growing, the profit is becoming there. Yes, and who is winning here? Who is, okay, who is making every single money? Yes, who is making every single money? The Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Shudras, and the Vaishyas. Who is coming in the top 10 percentage? Most, okay, some of them, and the most of them they are about the, and most of them they are in the bottom 90%. Yes, the in bottom 90% is also okay, the Brahmin, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras are, okay, but the top 10%, most of them they are the, okay, Brahmin, Kshatriyas, Shudras, and the Vaishyas, which means you are telling me the progress of the top 10 percentage of the higher Varna systems, okay, who are completely richer. Exactly. The top 10% Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. But you are not telling me the true picture of the, okay, bottom 90 percentage, okay, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and the Brahmins, the bottom 90% who are not having any reservation. And you are not telling me the, okay, you are not telling me about the welfare of the take SCs and the STs and the Dalits, and you are not telling me about the welfare of the OBCs, the giants, the giants, and the Muslims, and everyone. You are not telling me about that. Then when you are not telling me about that thing, then why you are telling me that the देश आगे बढ़ रहा है, ठीक है, and we are becoming the third largest economy? Yeah, because we don't, okay, we don't want your simple answers like, okay, India becomes the third largest economy. We bullshit, that is bullshit, because we don't want to know who is the largest economy, who is the highest economy. We don't want it. Okay, what is the GDP? Because we want, because we know, okay, because we know who runs the economy and who is the owner of the economy. Who runs the economy? The top 10. Who is the owner of the economy? Top 10%. And who runs the economy? Top 10%. And who gets the profit from these economies? Yes, the top 10%. And the bottom 90 percentage, they are going to work in this, okay, in these buildings, in this real estate, and they are going to make the profit for the top 10 percentage. And then you are telling me that this thing is required. See, झूठ बोलने के लिए एक, झूठ बोले कौवा काटे, एक ये होता है, ठीक है, एक ये होता है हर बार। जीडीपी बढ़ रहा है, जीडीपी बढ़ रहा है, क्या घंटा बढ़ रहा है? जीडीपी से कुछ लेना देना ही नहीं है, क्योंकि जीडीपी मैटर नहीं करता तुम लोगों की जिंदगी, उनके आंसू, उनके तकलीफ, उनके खून, उनके, ठीक है, उनके फ्रस्ट्रेशन, ये कभी भी ये बताता ही नहीं कि जीडीपी गया भाड़ में, द जीडीपी गया भाड़ में, जीडीपी गया भाड़ में, थर्ड लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी गया भाड़ में, पर कैपिटा इनकम गया भाड़ में, सब कुछ गया भाड़ में, क्योंकि हम लोग बॉटम 90% ऑफ द इंडियंस, द 130, ऑलमोस्ट 130 करोड़ पीपल ऑफ इंडियंस, दे डोंट ओन द एनी बिजनेस, मोस्ट ऑफ द देम. Maybe some of them they want the business. Okay, small scale industries, but they don't own the, yes, exactly, the big businesses, or medium scale businesses. And then you tell me that these things are, and this, you tell me these things are. जा भाई जा, तू वहां पे जाके मर. तू हमको जीडीपी के बारे में बता रहा है, जीडीपी के बारे में बता रहा है तू. तो क्या घंटा बताएगा जीडीपी के बारे में? जीडीपी गया भाड़ में, पर कैपिटा इनकम गया भाड़ में. Because that is not going to tell me the true picture. That is not going to tell the true picture. Okay, I will tell you. See, remember. Okay, I have opened this thing. Remember this thing. Yeah. See, standard measure of economic activity. It is widely criticized for failing to reflect the actual distribution of wealth and well-being within a society. मैंने बोला था नहीं, well-being within a society. Evidence, okay, Evidence indicates in that major economies, including India and the United States, a vast majority of national wealth is concentrated in the hands of the top 10%, while the bottom 90% of the 50% hold disproportionately small share. That the wealthiest 10% of the Indians hold approximately 65% of the country's total wealth, while the bottom 50% just hold 6.4. The top 1% alone controls about 40% of the nation's wealth. United States, the top 10% control roughly 67.4% of the wealth, while the bottom 50% holds only 2.5. But here, top 10% holds 65, and the bottom 50 of Indians, they hold 6.4. That's the reason. Yeah.
The dynamic where the bottom 90% work within these assets owned by the top 10% and they effectively pass back their salary through the consumption and diversity portfolio. Yes, capital advantage. Rapid growth in sectors like IT, finance, and real estate primarily benefits a small elite who owns the majority of capital assets. Returns on these assets disproportionately flows back to this group. Returns on these assets, ठीक है, हाँ तुम लोगों का कुंडली बताना पड़ेगा. ठीक है, ये देखो capital advantage. Rapid growth in sectors like IT and finance, real estate primarily benefits a small elite who own the majority of the capital assets. Returns on these assets disproportionately flow back to this group. Okay, the nearly 70% of the India's GDP is driven by the domestic consumption. If the top 10% owns the companies and the assets providing these goods and services, a significant proportion of the wages spent by the bottom 90% returns to the top via business profits. Nearly 70% of the India's GDP is driven by the domestic consumption. If the top 10% own the companies and the assets, okay, providing these goods and services, a significant portion of wages spent by the bottom 90% returns to the top via business profits. ठीक है, ये इंपॉर्टेंट है. कैसे? ठीक है, फॉर एक बेस्ट एग्जाम्पल, जियो धन धनाधन. ठीक है, जियो धन धनाधन धन धनाधन धन धन. मुकेश अंबानी गिव्स salary to employees. Okay, salary to employees. Okay, and you know what, these people, they will go for the Reliance stores, which means they are giving the salary, which means they are giving the fraction of some salary to there. And you know, these people are supporting their franchises, and you know, these people, they go to the Wankhede stadium and they pay the tickets and they get the merchandise. Okay, yes, and the ticket prices, everything goes to Ambani's. And then the Jio petrol pumps, yes, exactly, they are there here, which means that is there with the Jio petrol pumps. And then the Jio SIM, okay, subscription services, okay, which means you have to subscribe 3 months, you have to pay recharge, and Jio Hotstar. And then Campa, yeah, it is coming, which means he has occupied every single sector. And then the crude oil business, that is the most important business. They get the oil at 60, they mix with ethanol, and then they get recurring cost, and then it is going to be costing you 102. They will get at 60 only. They will get at some 50s or 60 rupees or 70 rupees per liter. They will make it per liter. Yes, and then they will pass it. In Bangladesh, okay, बांग्लादेश को देखो, 51 रुपये का बेचते हम लोग, और वहाँ पे 51, और यहाँ हम लोगों के लिए डबल, लगभग डबल, 102 रुपये. बरोबर. मोदी सरकार के ऊपर भरोसा रख के, ठीक है, सलाम. ठीक है, हाँ, 102. ठीक है. So that's the reason you need to understand. So this is the most important thing you need to understand, because you don't know this entire thing. तुम लोगों को मालूम ही नहीं, ठीक है. और ये लोग बोल रहे जीडीपी क्या बाहर में, क्या घंटा फर्क पड़ता है. हाँ, ठीक है, हाँ. और पर कैपिटा इनकम बोलते हैं 2,50,000 है हिंदुस्तान पर ईयर. और हर एक महीना को देखो 20,833. लेकिन क्या सब लोग 2,50,000 कमाते हैं एक साल के लिए? क्या ये, ठीक है, स्लम में रहने वाले बंदा जो है नहीं, क्या इतना कमाता है? नहीं. अगर सब लोग इतना ही कमाते तो अंबानी के पास इतना ही होना था, 2,50,000 रुपये होना था एक साल के लिए. उसके पास करोड़ों है, क्यों है? अदानी के पास करोड़ों है, उतना ही क्यों है? पर कैपिटा इनकम गए भाड़ में. मतलब तुम्हारे डेफिनेशन ही गलत है भाई. तुम्हारे जो डेफिनेशंस है वही गलत है. इकोनॉमिक्स में जो लिखा गया है, दोस आर द बिगेस्ट गार्बेज डेफिनेशंस, बिकॉज दे विल नेवर एवर टेल यू द मेन पिक्चर ओनली. एंड देन यू आर गिविंग मी द सेम थिंग, बिकॉज then you are telling me that this picture, all these things you are telling it to me, and you are saying that this देश आगे बढ़ रहा है. No. सीधा बोल, the nation आगे नहीं बढ़ रहा है. 14.6 crore people of India, they are progressing. Congratulations to the 14.6 crore people, okay, who belongs to the top 10%, and the bottom 90%, 131.4. तुम लोग गुलाम हो इस देश के, और तुम लोग गुलामी करते रहना इस देश का. पहले अंग्रेज़ों का गुलामी की, अब टॉप 10% वालों का गुलामी कर. That is what the exact true picture of Indian society. But you are not telling me the true picture of Indian society. Why? Because if you tell it, the next day there will be a revolution. Why? Remember this, every single thing is concerned with the business. Every single thing is concerned with the money, where every single money is matters. And you know what? Huh? And you know what? The rich has to get richer, and the top 90%. Because you are going to tell me a metric. Indian central government is going to tell me a metric, which is going to just tell me the picture, which is going to depict the picture of top 10%, neglecting the which is going to depict the picture of top 10%, neglecting the reality, neglecting completely, devastating, completely neglecting the lives, frustration, tension of the bottom 90 percentage, where they have to do every single loan and EMI, and they have to enslave themselves by paying the loan with the interest back to the back to the banks. Okay, the same bank which has killed the power of this value which they have been passing into the bank, and the same bank which is not going to give you the interest adjusted to the inflation rate. It is not going to give you the interest rate adjusted to the inflation rate. That is why you cannot trust anyone. You cannot trust any minister, you cannot trust any business report, you cannot trust anything. You cannot trust anything. Then why you are trusting everything? And that's the most toughest gamble of all the time. Because the toughest gambles, you ask the toughest questions and you get the transparent answers. But in India, sadly to say this, no one is ready to give the transparent answers, because everybody's business runs on the what? Exactly. And this is the GDP. This is the GDP. This is the GDP. Okay, now, okay, I will tell it to you. Okay, I will tell you. Simple diagram. Simple diagram. Okay. One, two, three, four. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now here, see here. This is the top 10%. This is the top 10%. This is the top 10%, and this is the bottom 90%. The bottom 90%, exactly. The top 10% and the bottom 90%. The top 10% and the bottom 90%. Okay. And you know, the top 10% and the bottom 90%, they have something in common called as this entire fiasco. This entire fiasco they are having. So what this fiasco tells you, this entire thing, okay, these people are going to pass the salaries. These people are going to pass the salaries. And you know, these people have desires. These people have desires and needs and demands. You know what? In order to meet it, they have to go to certain place, and that's the okay. And who holds the ownership of this place? Okay, again, ownership of this place. Yes, again the top 10%, which means whatever they are giving it to you, they are going to take it back. Okay, that means the top 10 percentage, yeah, the top 10 percentage, they are giving it to they are giving something called as salary. And the salary, okay, and the salary is going to be, the top 10% is going to have a salary, okay, is going to give you a salary. The top 10% is going to give you a salary, and the bottom 90% is going to receive it. Okay, the bottom 90% is going to receive it. Either it's government or either it's maybe private sector, government sector or private sector. And you know, this bottom 90%, they have, okay, lot of demands. Okay, so what is that? What is the demands? Okay, comforts, groceries, groceries, entertainment, sports, Okay, groceries, entertainment, sports, groceries, entertainment, sports, luxuries and the comforts, and then the technology. Okay, and you know what? Okay, all of this is occupied by the top 10% again. All of this is occupied by the top 10% again, and you have to give this salary, and you have to give this salary, and you have to give this salary, you have to give this salary again back to this top 10%. Why? Because whatever the salary you are getting it in the droplets, you have to pass it again, because you have to spend on the groceries, entertainment, sports, luxuries and comforts, and technology. So which means these are the diversified portfolios. What are the diversified portfolios? These are the diversified portfolios: grocery section, entertainment, sports, luxuries and comforts, technology, gadgets, everything. Okay, now many of you how many of you have take okay how many of you have bought it in the Geo store? How many of you bought it in the Geo marts? Okay, the Reliance more. Why? Okay, which means it is a biggest brand collection. TVs are there, sofa, okay, TVs are there, some gadgets are there, and some groceries is available. Every single thing is available. Okay, every single thing is available. The okay, branded shirts, everything. And okay, and you know what? These businesses are run on profits. These businesses are run on profits. Exactly. When these businesses are run on profits, you are going to pass your salary to the Ambani, which has given you the salary again. He has given you the salary. The Ambanis have given you the salary, and right now you are going to buy it, the shops, and you know what? You are going to pass the salary again. You are going to pass the small fraction of your salary into Ambani's again. And how much? How many of you are going to? You are not the only one. Many of them are going to buy it throughout the India, which means you have just made Ambani's richer again and again, which means he comes under top 1%, which means he is a part of top 10%. The same goes with Adani, the Murthis, Mittals, everyone, the Damanis, okay, Mahindras, everyone. See, this game no one knows, because this game is completely done, because I am explaining it to you in very sweet words, in very good understanding words. That's the reason, by drawing the diagrams, by giving you the flow chart. This is a flow chart. You should know where your money is going, who is collecting the money, how is collecting the money, who is making the profits out of my salary, where I am spending the money. Okay, and if I am eating somewhere, who is the owner of that? Who is the owner of that building, for whom which I am making the profit for him? Exactly, you have to tell. And what are his intentions? Every single thing matters. Every single thing. So you need to understand every single thing, because this thing, the bottom 90%, they don't know. The bottom 90%, yes, the bottom 90 percentage, okay, and most of them, they are Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Shudras, Vaishyas. What about them? And okay, and SCs and STs, they need to have reservation, because the top 10 percentage has been occupied by this higher Varna systems, higher class systems. The Thakurs, the Agarwals, and the Rajputs, everyone is there. Okay, the Malhotras. Okay, all these people are there. All these people are there. All these people are there. Which means these people, they are rich. These people are rich. Then what about those Brahmins? Then what about those Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Shudras, and the Vaishyas who are not rich? Who are not rich? They have to be rich, but they are not rich. But what about the bottom 90%? Most of them, those who are not rich, they don't have the reservation. And if they don't have the reservation, where they are going to go? Because they are not going to get the jobs, because high competition. And at the same point of time, these people, they have to, because you know what, these people, एक बच्चा जो ब्राह्मण के घर में पैदा होता है, और वो बॉटम 90% को बिलोंग करता है, तो उसका उसने कोई गलती नहीं की है कि एक ब्राह्मण परिवार में पैदा होके, या फिर कोई, ठीक है, हाँ,
बिकॉज बॉटम 90% में जो भी परिवार में पैदा होता है उनको रिजर्वेशन नहीं मिलता। ठीक है, रिजर्वेशन मिलता है SC ST दलित्स को। ठीक है, तो ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय शूद्र वैश्य जो बॉटम 90% में बिलोंग करते हैं उनका क्या है? एंड द टॉप 10%, ओके ओके, टॉप 10% ब्राह्मण्स क्षत्रिय में उनके बारे में पूछना है ना। ठीक है, वो लोग मजे में जी रहे हैं, तो मतलब वो लोग आराम से जिएंगे, मस्त आराम से। अरे सारे कम, एवरी सिंगल कंफर्ट लग्जरीज दे हैव गिवन इट, ओके, गॉड हैज गिवन इट। ठीक है, but right now this bottom 90% where they will go. And the bottom 90% there is a differentiation, there is a differentiation with respect to the caste. Casteism chalta hai Hindustan mein. Okay, and you need to understand when the casteism goes on, and when the cutoffs, casteism goes on and the cutoffs goes on with respect to the different states, and with respect to the different states, and with respect to different states, different cutoffs, different scores have to be scored by the different castes and their subcategories, and according to the reservations which they have it, depending upon that, SCs STs कम स्कोर करो आराम से मिल जाएगा। ठीक है, ब्राह्मण लोगों को ज़्यादा स्कोर करना पड़ेगा वही जॉब को पाने के लिए। और मैं SC STs को मैं दोष नहीं दे रहा हूँ, क्योंकि SC STs को चाहिए। क्यों? टॉप 10% में कौन बैठे? ब्राह्मण लोग ही बैठे। टॉप 10% में कौन बैठे? ठीक है, वही क्षत्रिय शूद्र, ओके, क्षत्रिय वैश्य मर्चेंट्स बनियस एंड एट द सेम पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम ब्राह्मण्स। देन व्हाट अबाउट द बॉटम 90% then? Tell me about the bottom 90% right now. Tell me about the bottom 90%, okay, of the Indians, where they will go, okay, apart from the SCs and STs. SCs got the reservation, okay, I'm keeping them in separate bracket right now. Okay, the Dalits, the SCs and the STs and the Dalits, okay, I'm keeping in the separate bracket. Okay, yes, okay, yes, they have got the reservation and they should get reservation. I'm not against it. They should get reservation. Okay, even though I'm against reservation, okay, but still I'm saying it, yes, they need to get the reservation. Why they need to get reservation? Top 10% businesses, top 10 percentage wealth of India, it is held by 65% by the top 10% sector. Top 10%, okay, yes. Then what about these people? Okay, yes, they are, okay, they are in special okay, they are in special bracket. They are in special bracket that is called as reservation. Yes, okay, forget about that. Okay, that protection that is called as reservation. Forget about that. Forget about the top 10 percentage Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Shudras, Vaishyas, and the, okay, SCs and STs who have got the reservation in order to yeah. Then what about the bottom 90 percentage? Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and Brahmins, most of them they are there, and at the same point of time, एंड एट द सेम पॉइंट सबके सब कुबेर के बच्चे तो नहीं हो सकते, सबके सब कुबेर के बच्चे तो नहीं हो सकते। अगर सबके सब कुबेर के बच्चे होंगे तो काम कौन करेगा? कोई नहीं, काम नहीं करेगा। ठीक है, बॉटम 90%, द बॉटम 90% क्षत्रिय शूद्र वैश्य एंड यस एवरीवन, एंड द लिंगायत्स एंड द लमानीस एंड okay lambanis, and at the same point of time there's okay, the giants these giants, okay, these giants and the Buddhists. Okay, yes, exactly. Where they should go? Where the general where the general category should go? Where the general category go? Okay, even the OBCs, where they have to go? Okay, even the OBCs are also not having that much reservation. They are having very somewhat less reservation. I belong to the OBC. Where should I go? Tell me, please. No, you are not going to tell, because your politics business runs on the politics is a business, and that business runs on this caste and the creed and the customs and the religions. Then that business, no one can destroy that business, because that business has to be run on the caste, religion, reservations, casteism. Okay. Which means the future of many talented and skilled people, they are in the risk because of this thing.
Then give the justice to the bottom 90% Kshatriyas, Shudras, Vaishyas, and the general category, and to the OBCs who are having very less reservation. Give me those, give me that, give me, give those reservations, give those, okay, give those, you know what, the justice. No, you are not going to give the justice because your main business runs the left wing and the right wing, the businesses runs on the caste, creed. Yes, exactly. And if it is there, what I am doing here. So that's the reason I'm going to cancel the citizenship of India. मुझे नहीं चाहिए तुम लोगों का सिटीजनशिप. ठीक है, गरीब का बच्चा गरीब रहे और अमीर का बच्चा और अमीर बने, ये तुम लोगों का, ठीक है, वसुधैव कुटुंबम का एक मुख्य ध्येय है, या फिर विश्व मानव, या ठीक है विश्व गुरु का, ठीक है. हाँ, नहीं चाहिए तुम लोगों का विश्व गुरु, तुम लोग वसुधैव कुटुंबम तुम ही रखो, ठीक है, मेरे को बाहर भेजो. नहीं 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 नहीं, ठीक है. आई एम गोइंग टू कैंसिल द सिटीजनशिप ऑफ इंडिया. ओके, where this lot of religions, lot of customs, lot of politics, okay, the politics should run on the development of infrastructure, healthcare and education. It should not run on the caste, creed and the reservation and creation of the creation or the differentiation of the opinions, views, okay, based upon this religion and caste, in order to create the riots, in order to create the gamble, in order to create the confusion and the frustration between the people of different communities, rather than unifying them and working for their infrastructure development and healthcare and industries and education. That is what you need to do. Working on creating more jobs, how to create the more jobs, that is what you have to do it. And you are not concerned with it, and you are playing the game of ping pong, ding dong and the stone pepper scissor every single day inside the parliament. And you are saying like, okay, yes, the EU trade deal happened. Okay, the America has cut the tariffs from 25 to 18%. It's a big win. That has nothing to do, because all that money flows within the top 10% only. All that money flows within the top 10%, and that goes for corruption. The top 10% they will take it, and the corruption they are going to take it. The bottom 90% they are going to sit and cry, because they're the bottom 90% they are going to sit and cry because that particular salary is not adjusted with respect to inflation. Yes, gone. So which means you are not done any you have not done any of okay, a certain calculation with respect to everything. And you are saying to me that this thing is, yes, this thing runs like this. This thing runs like this. Now the caste system, now the caste thing is over. Now about the banks. Okay, I have told about the fractional reserve banking. The fractional reserve banking gives out the more loans. The more loans will create, the more loans means more people. The more people having more number of numbers means more numbers inside their bank accounts. And if they chase different goods and services, no problem. But if they chase the same goods and services, and if that goods and services belonging to the private organization or the private sector, where depending upon the demand, they are going to make it a supply. Okay, the supply is going to be very less. Okay, the supply is going to be very less, and the demand is going to be very high in the private sector. And then they are going to make sure every single quantity, every single item of that particular quantities or quantity, or depending upon the quality, whatever the private sector is producing it, that is going to be increasing in the high value, and that is going to devalue to the currency, because you have to give out more funds in order to get that thing, because a lot of people are going to have that much money, because too much money has flowed inside the system because of the fractional reserve banking systems. Okay, if you don't know fractional reserve banking systems, get lost. Go and first learn the economics, first learn the banking, first learn what happens inside the banks, and then come and talk to me. That is what we call as currency devaluation. The fractional reserve banking, the main principle of the banking itself is the currency devaluation. The main principle of the fractional reserve banking itself goes for the okay, currency devaluation, because it has created too much money supply inside the system. Too much money supply inside the system creates inflation. Too much money supply creates, okay, too much money supply means too much loans creation out of thin air. If you give it to everyone, if you give it to everyone, if they chase the different goods and services, if they diverge the divergent of the divergence of the goods and services, it happens, well and good. The divergence of their, okay, if the divergence of the goods and okay, if the divergence of their greed is there, okay, the divergence of the greed, the divergence of the greeds, demands and everything is going to happen, yes, well and good. But if it's going to converge, all the people want the same thing, all the people want the same thing, and everyone is having the money, all of them, they want the same thing, and if they have the money, what will happen? The supply is going to be less and the demand is going to be high, and at the same point of time the price is going to be increased higher, and at the same point of time what will happen? Finished. The prices is going to be soaring high, and everyone is going to shell out more funds of one particular currency in order to get that particular goods and services, which means you are doomed. Done. So that's the reason, always go for chuck. You need to go for checks. You need to go for checks. How to go for the checks? Because you need to go for this thing. The checks are very, very important. How much checking you are going to do it? How much checks you have done it inside your life? You have not done enough checks. You have not done enough checks. Okay, I'm going to tell it to you. Clearly, I'm going to tell it to you. You have not done enough checks. So that's the reason. Okay, that's the reason. Okay, let me bring something, because I need something to eat in order to continue, because I'm getting drained. I think I'm getting drained. Okay, I have to go and eat something, and I will come back. Okay, for that, until that thing, okay, I will stop this thing.